Welcome to the podcast. The Aging Queen. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. And welcome back to another wonderful episode of The Aging Queen. We have a very special guest for you today. We have Greg R. Baird. He is a vlogger, an author, and a global lecturer on LGBTQ plus civil rights. Greg, hello. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm honored and looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, no, me too. We connected like a week ago, and we have a lot of things in common, a lot of topics we both cover. So I wanted our listeners to really get a treat from your experience.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your history with advocacy and the work that you do.
Well, I get this question asked a lot. I am currently in Chicago. I'm a Michigan boy, though it seems like a lot of people that have come to Chicago are from Michigan, surrounding states to live in the bubble, as I say, here in the city. But my advocacy work began when I was in college. It was my first sense of community and being with other like-minded, if you want to say, other folks. And I belong to, I know we're going to get into the whole, the word queer, but it was called the Gay Lesbian Association for Student Support at Michigan University in Michigan, obviously. And it was a small gay group, and we did social activities, and then we had another meeting was more advocacy kind of things. And back in the day, I'm talking 80s, early 90s, you were talking more about HIV/AIDS kinds of issues, being tested, all that kind of stuff. So that was the advocacy kind of work and getting out there. But I had a boyfriend in college, my first boyfriend in college, that I met at a bar in Flint, Michigan. I was just talking the other day about this. And nobody else was really partnered up. So we were the token gay men to go into the residence halls and speak about coming out. We talked about coming out issues and things like that. And that's where it all began. My background's in secondary education. So I started working on different, after I left college, I worked on a couple of different LGBTQ plus boards and groups in northern Michigan. I worked at the Locken Center for the Arts, a world-renowned art school, started the first gay-straight alliance under a lot of scrutiny.
Right.
And I moved on to higher ed and just began speaking to a lot of college classes, and that transpired to working with an agency that I had been booking different acts on my college campus with, and said, we're getting a lot of work for you, Greg, and a lot of great feedback, and we'd like to represent you full time, but you need to live near a major airport. And I was living in northern Michigan, beautiful northern Michigan in Petoskey, and
wow.
And I thought, and I thought, well, I've been coming to Chicago a lot for either Gay Pride or Market Days, and I've been comfortable being here, close to my home state. So I moved to Chicago, and as a lot of people know, when you're working with people, either as a teacher or educator or whatever, you're not making a lot of money. So it was a real struggle my first year because I was no longer, as I say, the big fish in the small pond, but I was the small fish in the big pond.
Right.
And so it was a lot of self work, working with different things. And first agency I left, and now I'm with two agencies. And I went global several years ago, and then I'm on something called Speaker Hub, which is, when you think, it has like a clearinghouse for a lot of people and for people to check out. So that's kind of the lowdown with what I do. And in between there, I did some documentary film work on probably the worst two disasters in modern times in the gay community. And that was the murder of Matthew Shepard. I did documentary on him. And then also I went out on my own after the Pulse nightclub shooting and did a 13-minute short film that I show in a program about erasing hate. I still use that, even though Pulse has been under a lot of changes and different things like that. So,
Yeah, sadly, those are both avoidable tragedies that have affected generations of gay and queer people. Matthew Shepard was more my generation, probably yours also,
yep.
and the Pulse is more the millennial generation.
And
Um,
the murder of Matthew really probably was the key thing that switched gears for me in doing the work that I'm doing now. I felt there was a need. It was a young person, I mean, the whole thing unfolded like, the best drama you could ever write.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah, I met Moises Kaufman, the artistic director of the Tectonic Theater Project, who did the Project Laramie. Met him briefly when I was in New York interviewing for they had a position open at his theater company. Anyway, it was a pleasure to meet him, and he's the one who kind of first brought that story out
sure.
in theater on stage, and then in the form of a movie. And I think it's one of the most important stories because Matthew was just such you know free spirit in a state that was also kind of it's open land, and when you're young you just feel like so free and open, right? And then
Yeah, you're talking, literally cowboy country,
yeah, very
and
common.
for Wyoming, the only university in Wyoming is at the University of Wyoming, and that's where they had the LGBTQ plus group, and it just unfolded like an unbelievable drama. And years ago, I used to go speak to students about their characters they were playing in the Laramie Project. Now, mind you, we have a tendency to be focused on just as human beings as the latest and greatest story, and unfortunately, that is not anymore. Although that foundation is doing some great work, the Matthew Shepard Foundation, and
Yeah,
Dennis and Judy are doing some really awesome things. But there are things that have spun and changed and everything else. But it's an incredible blessing and gift to the world on what they've done in their advocacy work.
yeah, absolutely. And how has the new Trump administration and executive orders affected your DEI work and the advocacy work you do in general?
That is a great question. I look back to last year, and I always tell people June and October are my busiest times for speaking. I speak
Mhm.
around, usually the summer's a little bit low key other than Pride, but Pride Month for June, and then October is National LGBTQ plus History Month. And I was down 70% last June speaking.
Wow.
And I had a lot of discussion with one of my agencies called Speakers Inc. And they were asking me, are your numbers down? Because a lot of speakers that are doing DEI work are not getting any work.
Mm.
And then I wondered what October was going to be like. And this is, way before, this is when everybody was so riled up and Trump being going to be back in office or not, and the
Right.
election. So October rolled around and my numbers were down again.
Mhm.
And the DEI stemmed from the whole woke thing right after the George Floyd murders. And
Right.
I saw what was going on, and then November happened, and the DEI thing came under attack. And it's been a struggle. I have to be honest with you. I've been doing this for 31 years,
Mhm.
full time since 2003, and so I've done a lot of work with lectures. I am my own lecture program. I had diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in some of the titles or description of the lectures. I eliminated that, kind of rewrote them. My one agency, my other agency said, Greg, you might want to use empathetic leadership
Mm.
instead of DEI.
It's just
So, and he referred it to
the
as
packaging of it.
the Trojan horse
Right.
coming up to the gate. He goes, "You're still going to present yourself the same, but it's the inside. Well, you're going to change what you look like. Basically, I'm trying to give a reference here, but the inside is still going to be the same.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I've done that, but it's months and weeks of work and changing marketing materials and things like that. But I'll tell you, I've never in my life thought this would be the case of what's going on in my career. And, I tell people I'll be damned if I'm going to go down like this. So
Yeah.
I'm fighting really hard, getting work. The podcasts do help in getting my message out. I have a really unique message that brings people together, and everybody, in the LGBTQ plus community and even my allies say your message is needed more than ever.
It
I
is.
agree with that, but tell that to the big name corporations that were booking me that have now gotten rid of DEI. A lot of them have.
Well, I think it's too soon to I know it's affecting you and it's affecting a lot of people. Um but I think it's an immediate jerk response, to
Absolutely.
go back. I think it's gonna maybe it won't be as many events or as much attention to it or a separate department, on the corporate level, but DEI, call it what it is here to stay because the country's is more diverse than ever.
Absolutely.
Um,
You're right.
Here's an article in Tech Target, written by Patrick Thibodeau. He says on March 5th, despite President Donald Trump's ongoing effort to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion policy in government, the need for a diverse workforce isn't going away in corporate America. Not only is the U.S. population becoming more diverse with each generation, but many employers see a diverse workforce as essential to business success. So it's already integrating in the business world. It's just there's that political factor and maybe a social cultural factor that's going on, because we're under kind of like a cultural civil war, in the U.S.
That's a good way of putting it. I agree with that. And the sad part about it is that um, they're pitting people against different communities and the marginalized communities, things like that. So I just think, and I tell people, and one of the things I do every day of my
Right,
life is encourage people to have hope. There's so many people that are feeling hopeless or powerless. Like,
right.
what can we do? How can we be there? Jobs are at stake. I have friends that, work for the government and they're on, the morale is horrible. They don't know if their jobs are going or not.
Oh, I grew up in D.C. and literally 90% or more, it seems, um, of people who live in the D.C. metropolitan area, if they don't work directly with the federal government, they're living off of them. It's an
Correct.
industry town, just like Hollywood to LA. And when something like this happens, just like a uh, SAG or Writers Guild strike in LA, it affects the entire area, the whole region. It's a trickle down effect. So there are real life issues and consequences, for sure. That are coming out of these um, brute force and uh, discriminatory decisions from the administration.
I really feel that, I started off speaking to some high schools, not
Hmm.
many, but mostly colleges, universities, and events, and now that's spread into corporate America and companies. And I really feel, you mentioned the shock to the system. I think the companies and corporations, even the schools, are going to find a way uh, to remain diverse and celebrate the diversity of their coworkers, colleagues, students, and just in a renewed, different way. We're human. We find different ways of.
Yeah, we gotta get along,
Yeah.
and we're more diverse than ever. Plus, the DEI situation, I think, is just they're getting rid of programs without even knowing how important. They got rid of people that are working in the nuclear energy department that are overlooking national security. Then they hired them back. I mean, we got Elon Musk with a chainsaw here. It's a clown show. It's
Oh,
very
it is.
scary.
Yes.
It's very scary, and it's affecting people. And you know, it's it's borderline delusional. First thing, um, if not completely delusional, thinking that you can try to manipulate and change the demographics or the of America. America is evolving, it's progressing, it's becoming what it will become, what it will become, um, and what it is diverse, and that's exactly the strength of America. You can't try to, I don't understand. I'm not going to go into the political thing because I think it's very easy to, but when you say when they say make America great again, when was America great before? Like, for in what perspective and whose perception?
Yeah, and it's just a crafty slogan
It's a
that,
crappy slogan because there's always
yeah,
been minority groups that have been stomped on, and wealth was always built on the back of either slaves or indentured servants or fresh
yeah,
immigrants. And
absolutely.
the new Italian and Irish ones happen to be from South America now. So, and they're coming over the border. Doesn't matter. They came on boats before. It's still the same, you
Yep.
know. So it's just it's this generation's new enemy kind of thing, because the recent immigrant's always the one that's the most helpful, but always a scapegoat.
And I advise friends and people I speak to that, my best friend's hooked on CNN. I'll go over his house and CNN's on, and he gets so consumed. And I just, and I'm, you know, reaching out to your listeners to let them know, be informed, but walk away from the TV or your
Yeah,
phone. You can't let that invade. I'm really big about positive energy and self perseverance of who you are, and uh,
it's not good for your mental health watching the news. Mm.
and having, I was out last weekend, excuse me, and I went into the bar for a drink with a friend of mine, and there's a group of guys, and they're all hanging out, and all across the TV was the nightly news, and
Mm.
of course it was either Trump or Elon Musk or something, and people are glued to the TV. It's like a drug, and I understand people are concerned, but you got to give yourself time to get out, enjoy nature, enjoy a walk, something. You can have these conversations, but don't let it evolve so much into everything that's about you, because
Yeah,
so much more to life.
there is so much more to life, and he's a very good showman. The only thing is that this isn't a reality show that has no consequences.
Yeah, and it's just like the other night you mentioned and I still laugh about this, the transgender mice thing, and he
Mm.
got it all wrong because it was actually a facility in Ohio that was working on transgenic
Mm.
mice, and it was clearly working on different kinds of things with mice, and finding cures or different things
Right.
for humans. It had nothing to do
With transgendered. Oh my goodness.
transgender mice, and I heard it, and I thought I need to find out what he's talking about, because I have a real vivid imagination about a transgender mice,
I know. It's oh my
and,
goodness.
and there are people that believe that,
They
and
believe anything he says. That's the problem.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's very scary. And then, but I'm actually not scared of him. I think he's just a showman with that. He'll be checked and balanced with the other forms of government, and judges are doing their work. It's Elon that scares me.
yeah,
Uh, because he's getting a lot of money from the government for SpaceX and all his other stuff that he's doing, but yet there's such a big conflict of interest there. I mean, he's going in there and cutting, programs that, I mean, it's a huge conflict of interest, and we don't know what his ulterior hidden agenda or motives are.
and that's what we have to understand. That's a good point. There are alternative motives in all of this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and it might not just be to help the rich get richer. It could be something a little bit more, you know, um, demonic. I don't know.
Yeah, there's several layers of this, and I think with a lot of this distraction they're doing, there's
It's
something
distractions.
underlying that we need to be aware of and rise up. I always tell people, rise of the resistance from the
Yeah.
Star Wars. It's so key to everything right now, and sitting back and allowing things to happen.
We need leaders at the grassroots level. We need communities to get together and let voices be heard. Let our voices be heard. It's the only way they're going to listen. And every king, despot in the past has always been checked by the people,
Right.
either voting or by their voices in protest on the ground. So I would say, let your voice be heard. Call your senator, call your congressman, and don't just sit there and let these guys do what they want to do.
Yeah, do not allow it to happen. And for the our LGBTQ plus community, we need our allies more than
Yeah,
ever, and acknowledge them and embrace them and share what they can do. Not every ally wants to be in a protest or in a gay pride parade, but
right.
there's other ways of being involved at their comfort level. But an ally shouldn't be comfortable either. It's about releasing your power and privilege to help a marginalized community.
And this, I was reading that most of the people affected by the DEI cuts are white women.
Yes, I read that as well.
65%
Yeah,
of people are actually people who benefit from it are white women. And I'm sure there's a lot of Republican white women that benefit from it.
sure.
So it's shooting yourself in the foot. They think DEI is all people of color and gays. It's like that's not the majority. The same thing with LGBTQ plus. It's the majority of people in the queer spectrum are actually bisexuals.
That is true. That is true.
So it's information that's used against us, in the sense they just take the the least known member of the community or a piece of the larger community and pick at it. When a predator wants to hunt, they don't go after the big male elk. They go after the small newly born doe.
Newly born or weak or
Yeah, yeah.
maybe correct.
So right now, years and years of campaigning and um, advocating for rights for LGBT people. I think now the people who are being attacked are the trans folks because there's less of them, and they are the ones who are kind of like the new issue on board, and people feel like they can terrorize them, they can pick at them. So I think the gay community, male gays, the Human Rights Campaign, any already in any infrastructure that's already been around for many years that maybe didn't cater specifically to the trans cause needs to jump in and help them. And I think they have been in adding them to the alphabet and everything. But what's your opinion on it? I know there's something that's different when you're in a bar and socially and generational, the word between LGBTQ versus queer, excuse me. But when it comes to advocacy, I think it's a good idea that they join the group, right?
I agree. And I run across in my travels different types of people with different opinions, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
I have people within our own community. They'll say, "I don't get the tea. I don't get the tea. It doesn't belong
Right.
in the community. They should have their own thing. They're only bringing us down." I hear that occasionally. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't get it. And I tell people when I speak and I go out and I an advocate of any people that you don't understand or you don't, it's way different than your way of thinking, sit down and have a conversation with them
Right.
and see how they are. You need to have conversations. They're human beings and they may be different. They may have a different gender, identify differently, but have those conversations because you will find that you are more alike than you are different. And our differences only make us unique. It's not like a negative thing.
Right.
And we really need to make an effort in rallying, bringing people together. We just have a society that will nitpick and dissect every single thing, and that stems from movies to the most low thing, movies to
Right.
everything. I mean, that's what goes on. That people will put stuff on the web, and I've
Yeah.
been, on that, and they, oh my gosh,
And
it's
they want to divide and conquer.
yes, they
They
want to
want
be right. They want them to be wrong. It's
right.
this whole division, and that's what we're dealing with now. They say, oh, though there's a right and a wrong,
Right.
and there's no gray area. Well,
There are some people, there's a
no,
camp of thinking that, um, you know, lesbian, gays, and bisexuals, they're categorized by sexuality, where, trans is more of a gender issue. Being
correct,
queer is more of a gender issue. It has nothing to do with sexuality. You
right.
know, I think, what do you think about this? What do you think about the folks, or maybe that think about separating the two? I
Well, I
mean,
mean, as we all know, gender identity isn't about who you're attracted to, but it's about who you are. So male, female, gender, queer. I mean, it's a broad spectrum. So you need to understand that, and I think people will differentiate. They're like, well, sexual orientation. Well, that's not gender. Sorry.
hmm hmm
We need to keep, we have the acronym that we use, and that's part of our community. And each one of those letters in, is a microcosm of different kinds of communities. And then we
right.
break that down even further. If you look at gay men, well, then, you have your bear community, you have
Yeah.
uh, twink, however you want to label it. Everybody's got to be categorized for some reason.
Everybody's going to be categorized, and you get discriminated within this. This isn't queer gay people against straights. Literally within the community, you get discriminated upon.
And as the aging queen, we get
Yeah.
the ageism thing thrown in
Oh,
too.
big time.
I roll my eyes when I hear some of these young gay boys,
hmm
the Gen Zs or the millennials that are between 28 and 44. They go, "Oh, I'm 30 years old. I'm old." I'm like, "Oh, honey,
Oh yeah, they don't have no idea. Yeah,
please." It's all over. But that's the
when your knees start
advertising.
cracking is when you're older.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the advertising we do in our community. These,
Yeah,
magazines, the video. I have a
it's
local
all about
bar
abs
here.
and perfect face, and you know
Yeah,
what? You go out to the bars and almost no one looks like that.
no one. And
They don't exist.
we have a local bar that completely changed. A lot of the older community used to go in there, and now it's all nothing against these. It's just they're doing RuPaul's Drag Race, whatever season,
Yeah,
and glow parties and things like that. And there's not really a space, although
right.
it can be on certain nights for people that are a little bit older. And I'm talking, late 40s, late
Yep,
50s on up.
that's my group.
Yeah, yeah. And we lost a lot of those spaces.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Especially during COVID, a
oh,
lot of
yeah,
them
I was
shut
just going to
down.
say that.
Yeah,
And I live in an area where uh, it's called East Lakeview. I think they still call it Boys Town, but they're trying to
yeah. We're still.
stay away from that. But there's a whole history behind Boys Town
hmm
in Chicago. But a lot of those spaces that we had to go out for a drink, because the bars were back in the day, that was our social setting, that was our safe.
There's safe places. Yeah,
And a lot of those spaces are gone now.
right.
And so I think the internet, I think the apps and things like that have killed that experience.
The apps are killing everything. They're killing love.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a
Because
great point.
it makes you feel like there's someone better around the bend, and it's not true.
Yep.
Feeling connections. I had this conversation before today, before we chatted, and it's for me. I guide myself through these butterflies. Once I get a feeling with someone, a very deep connection or anxiety, and I was kind of reading up on it, and it's a natural feeling that we're supposed to get in order to keep us together, in order to keep us bonded as
Right.
people.
Very
You know,
interesting.
so yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's like an alert thing. So when I like someone, I start getting a little anxious. You start getting a little nervous.
Sure.
You get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, like a little anxious feeling, and you just have to make that into energy, into positive energy. You can't let it
What a
tank.
glorious feeling that is.
It's a beautiful feeling.
Because I kind of know when that happens, that's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this might be the real deal or something.
Exactly.
I've had,
How many times does it happen?
I've had a date years ago. He turned out to be a boyfriend, but sitting across from him having Thai food, and I could barely look at him because I was all like, the
Oh, I
giddy,
know.
giddy boy, the giddy schoolgirl, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I still remember when I said goodbye to him on the street, and he was getting his car, and the best line that anybody has ever said to me, he said, "Greg, if I never have the opportunity to see you again, I'm going to be gravely disappointed."
Oh, that's
That melted my butter.
that's some notebook stuff right there, Greg. That's
Oh, and we weren't together for very long.
yeah.
Everybody's got their things they deal with, but that was just the butterflies. I could barely sleep.
You can barely sleep. It makes you, it's you're on a constant alert. I mean, it's like one of these. It's like I don't for people who haven't felt it. I don't know how to explain it. It's not like a panic attack. It's just like a general feeling of anxiety, but it's really in the pit of your stomach, and it's something that irritates you, but it also makes you feel really good.
Yeah, I just know that it's a really great connection,
It's a great connection.
and then I used to second guess all this stuff, and I would say, "Ooh, what's going on here? What's happening? What's like ooh," and you're always hoping the other person's feeling it. And with John, who I dated, it was the phone call the next day,
Wow.
and that kind of thing, and it's a glorious, incredible feeling. Like I've had anxiety, but it's
That's different.
like that.
Yeah.
I think
Anxiety is in your chest and in your head. This is
yeah,
in the pit of your stomach, but it feels like anxiety. It's
yeah.
energy.
I think we just label it as butterflies in your
It's
stomach.
butterflies. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So how many times have you felt that with guys in your life?
I can name off the guy. My first boyfriend James that I met at the Copa nightclub. I was just talking this on another podcast yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
In Flint, Michigan. No longer there. I met him there. I had the same feeling. I had it with a boyfriend I met here in Chicago when I first dated with John, who I just spoke of, and probably a short-term person I dated 6, 7 years ago. But
So 7 years ago, the last time you felt it?
yeah, it's very infrequent. I mean, I've got on dates and things, but you just kind of know.
I tell people, I mean, I felt it recently, and I don't know if it's a false alarm, but before this, I haven't felt it in 12 years.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I dated the last person I felt it with was probably in 2000. Oh my gosh, probably 2015, maybe
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
15. Yeah,
Dating in the community is our dating pool is smaller, and then like you said, within that there's the gym bunnies, and then the bears, and the this and the that. So it becomes smaller and smaller because everyone has their particular taste or their particular look and stuff. So
yeah. I ran with the bear community when I first moved here, and then I
yeah,
lost. It was interesting. I lost 80 pounds back in took me
wow,
2006 to seven. Health, I wanted to do it because it's healthy, and I've kept it off. But I remember I was back in the bear community, and a lot of them were big eaters. We go out for dinner and stuff, and I just
yeah,
couldn't do that anymore. And I remember one cubbish guy came up. He says, "I got to tell you something." And I said, "Well, what's that?" He says, "I liked it when you were bigger."
yeah.
And I'm like,
I've
"How
had
come you
people
didn't
say
tell
that.
me then?"
I know, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
know. I've actually had people be ageist on the other end. Like when I was younger, and there's always these kind of chasers or um, guys that like older. And when I was in my 30s, I would actually like the ones who would probably be like 29 or something like that, right? But
Oh
they're
yeah.
looking at the guys who are 49. And I just wouldn't get it, and I wouldn't understand why they wouldn't like me, you know?
Uh-huh.
And it's like I was just too young. I was just too young. Now, if I go into those bars, I'm like the cream of the crop right there. I'm the right age for these folks. Um, and that's a good part about aging, because then you always have a community. You always have your thing.
You do.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but the past guys, other than the last one I dated, have been younger than I am, and it's nothing that I seek out. That's
Right.
what happened. And I go to Palm Springs, California, a couple times a year, and I remember the first time I went there. My friends Jack and Mike I stayed with. Jack goes, "Well, I need to tell you, when you come out here for the first time, you're going to be chicken." And I thought, and I was in my 50s at the time. I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
He goes, "No, you're going to be chicken." And I've never experienced that. Well, let me tell you, I got out there, and they were absolutely true. Yeah,
And do
very.
you think it's because they knew everyone?
Yeah, I was a
Right.
new guy that walked in, and it's my eyes and my smile.
Yeah.
They give me away. They like that. I'm very warm-hearted.
Right.
I even have one say, "Oh, you're not from here, are you?" I go, "Why do you say that?" He said, "Because you're a nice person."
Mm,
He
my
said, "You're
goodness.
not from LA," and I'm
That's
like,
funny.
"No," which I thought, "Wow."
I know. I lived in LA for a while. It's yeah, a lot of people that go to Palm Springs are from LA for sure. And
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think dating is wild now. There's all these I think we've made it even worse on ourselves, because the apps
Oh,
further divide us.
yeah, they do. Yep.
There's everything's a hashtag, everything's a fetish. We've turned relationships into a fetish.
And the thing is, too, with the apps that I don't like, it takes away the mystery immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, now the apps, what their body looks like.
Hmm.
If they're, I'm going to be explicit, if they're hung or not, or what they're into, what everything. There's no mystery meeting anybody, and I don't do that. But a lot of, I'll talk to them about, I always get, "Oh, what are you into? Are you top, your bottom? What do you?"
Right. It's
I'm
like,
like, "Oh my God, can we talk about something
I
that's more
know.
substantial?" But I'm the lone guy out there that thinks that way.
Are you a romantic?
Very,
Yeah. I
very.
think something that's lost recently, not only in the gay community or the queer community, but also in our heterosexual counterparts. It's just everyone wants things fast and easy,
Yeah, they
and
do.
perfect, like
Or I'd say dating's like a Tide commercial. It's
yeah,
always the new and improved.
right, exactly. And it's like if you mess up, and I'm saying mess up by literally just being yourself, you get judged very quickly. People have absolutely no. They want to find their twin. That's what it is. They have
True.
they have no patience for anyone's point of view if it differs. They, and I feel that's why a lot of people, straight or gay, date themselves.
Yeah.
Mm.
And the other thing that um, makes it a little bit rough, I feel, to date me, I'm monogamous minded. So,
Mhm.
and I'm not just saying this as assumption. There's so many
Open relationships now,
open relationships, and nothing against that, but it's not for me.
right?
My heart's not wired that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I don't know. I feel it's not for me either. That's why I've been single for a very long time.
Yeah,
I need to build and have that long term relationship and build that trust. I can't even think about anything else other than that.
it's so important too for
Yeah.
the trust, the friendship.
Hmm.
I say I want somebody that's going to be my best friend, but my husband.
Yeah.
That's my slogan.
Yeah. And you know what? I think bringing love back is it's kind of becoming a trend, or hopefully we will make it a
Good.
trend.
Very good.
because this whole thing, listen, it was a novelty when Grindr came out and all these apps started following it, and people were just hooking up left and right. Now I think people are tired of hooking up. There's always going to be a hookup cruising element, which I think is fine because sex is very important in life.
Sure.
But I feel that we've lost that romanticism on, moving forward.
It just seems so cut and dry. While you were talking, I was thinking about when I lived up in Traverse City, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
This is like 90, right around 92, 93, and AOL came out.
Yeah.
And my friend said, "Oh, you got to check out AOL. You can talk to any gay group like around the
Oh, yeah,
world."
chat rooms. Yeah.
Oh my God. And I go, "What?" I was so consumed with that. Talk about, and that you paid for that.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
The bills of getting, because I was on AOL, it was addicting because I had never in my life experienced that.
And it was categorized by age and
Yes.
groups. Yeah.
Yeah. Just, I don't even know if that's around anymore, but that was so
Oh, I don't
fascinating
think so. Yeah.
to me. The apps, I have one app on the phone that I'm on, it's Scruff, and I look at it out of boredom now and then, or I get,
No one talks on those things, Greg. They don't talk.
They don't. And it's always the same people on all the other
Same
apps.
people. They're all the same people. Yeah. You literally go to different countries when you're on vacation. You turn it on, it's the same thing. You can send out 100 messages, you'll get 2 back, and one of them is a bot.
Yeah.
So I think they're kind of useless. It's a marketplace. People feel like they need to be on there. No one really wants to be on there anymore.
It's a waste of time for me.
It's a waste of time.
When I sit, like, if I'm alone, I'm like, I even turn it off at times, but I turn it on, and then I'll get like a scammer on there, and like, "Oh, you look like a nice guy. What are you into? What do you do for a living?" I'm in the military currently, in the Army. I'm like, "Oh, here we go."
You should just be like, "Here's my social security card." And
yeah, right.
PIN numbers. That's what they're looking for.
Exactly.
I just think, we got to go back to basics. Things aren't working for some things. For other things, technology has helped. And, it does help you connect, but it also makes you lose a little piece of humanity in the process.
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world where we're all disconnected.
We're all disconnected.
Oh no, we're not disconnected because of we have our computers and cell phones. No, it's universal. We are disconnected. We don't understand one another, and we need to understand each other a lot better. It's a universal problem that we just don't understand. I think if we did, we wouldn't have a lot of the issues that we're having now, and people would be a little bit more kinder. And
we're losing empathy.
Yes, right.
And perspective, and that's what we need to gain back. And I think, I want to cover this: is how can us aging queens help the younger generation coming up? How can we, other than by having these kind of mediums to talk about our experience and history, because I didn't have older gays when I was growing up. A lot of them died because of the AIDS epidemic, and we really didn't have a lot of role models, So I think now the younger ones, even the ones who are in their 20s, I think they feel like they know it all. And I think there's something to say about the knowledge that you accrue as you're aging, being an aging queen, basically.
Yeah, and when I was younger, I remember in the small town where I grew up,
mm-hmm.
in Emily City, Michigan, 2,800 people. My mother would often refer to people as, "Oh, you don't want to be near them; they're a little fruity," or what, those kind of derogatory terms. But when I went to college, my theater professor, Dr. Halsalter, God rest his soul, he died a couple years ago. Bill Halsalter, everybody called him Uncle Bill. He had the most sarcastic sense of humor. When I worked at a summer camp in the Berkshires of Connecticut, we would send through the summer, we would send inappropriate postcards to one another. And this went on for years, by the way. And when he retired, I would often go back to Central Michigan University, and he was retiring and cleaning out his office, and I went to see him, and
Mm-hmm.
head of the theater department, like Dr. Hallsholder, I think had gone down to the restroom when I first got there, and
Mm-hmm.
head of the department goes, "You need to go in and look at his wall in his office." I go, "What?" He goes, "He loves you.
Oh,
He really thought of you a lot." And I walked in, and on the wall was every single one of these inappropriate postcards I had sent him.
oh, that's great. That's
And he
beautiful.
was the one, like when my own parents didn't even want me home for Thanksgiving because I was gay or they were going through something.
Yeah.
He invited me to his own home overnight because we were going to have
Oh,
drinks. And I remember him showing me the boys in the band, uh,
yeah. It's great.
the old movie. And he says, you got to watch this and really understand. But, we would sit at his little table. His husband would go to bed and he would sit there with his martini and a cigarette, very flamboyant. And we would sit across from one another and laugh, but he would talk and share.
Yeah,
And
you had a great mentor.
oh, he was great. And, long after I graduated, he was so proud of the work that I was doing and stuff. But he passed away a couple of years ago. But that's
Sorry to
one,
hear that.
yeah, thank you. He was one person that was influenced by so many, but I'll never forget him. And there's been a few on the way, but, I want to be that. And probably like you want to be that
Right.
queen, that mentor. And I feel like I've been a mentor, uh, ally or not.
Right.
For not only the LGBTQ plus community, but just people in general that are allies or maybe need some allyship. So
Yeah, and you know what? For me, I used to hang out at a lesbian bar in New York for years. Um, I love lesbians. I think they're mentors to me. I have my lesbian group. My sister's actually a lesbian, and she's older. She's my older sister, so she's a mentor too. Um, so it's anyone that you feel really connected to in the community that can help you navigate through this, life, because it's really just about life.
and
Uh,
because I didn't have that, like I didn't have a love in my family. They were
yeah,
bigoted and prejudiced, and I think when you come from those kind of backgrounds or you don't have that, I know
you
from my side, you want to give that, make sure
exactly.
people don't fall into that trap and don't have that as they grow older, because how important it is now more than ever for people to be there for one another. And
We got to connect more. Yeah,
yes, our connection is what we all need to work on.
we are the most connected in the world now with technology, and yet we feel so empty and disconnected.
Yeah,
How
it's
ironic is that?
interesting. Yep.
So we're doing something wrong. We clearly are. And as big companies start to dismantle, the bricks and mortar places, not only, um, these are places that we go to socialize, to learn nonverbal social cues. People after COVID started having more mental health issues, especially on planes and social situations like that, because
True.
we're losing that kind of um, social interaction. So if you can't even go to bars anymore because everything's online, and you can't go to shop because everything is online, where are you going to meet people? You're just you're in your car, you're bouncing off each other, and you don't have any empathy because you just think everyone's an enemy, and everyone's annoying you.
Yeah, and I've ran into so many that are like that. Even when I go to a small bar here every once in a while called Max's, and
Hmm.
because it's small, meaning it's like a saloon looking place. It's a gay bar,
Yeah, those are the best.
very inclusive. But I see a lot of, even when I go to Palm Springs, these kind of bars where there is a sense of community with the older generation,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of them that will sit by themselves, and that breaks my heart.
it does. Yeah.
Because I wanted people to feel included and not lonely, and
Hmm.
loneliness is a
There's a
huge
loneliness
problem in our
epidemic. Yeah.
community.
Yep, there is. Tragically there is, and that's something. I started this podcast because of it. Not only because I started feeling a little disconnected and lonely, but it's therapeutic to talk about it
Oh yeah.
and to say this is ridiculous. We are actually in our prime, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. We have knowledge, we have experience, we have love to give, and I really got tired of turning YouTube on or podcast, and it's some 22-year-old beautiful or whatever people think is beautiful with you know abs of steel
Yeah.
giving life advice, Greg. Like
Yeah.
those 3 months they've been out of college, if they even went, and they have all these kind of regurgitated from other YouTube channels thing, and it's just repackaged with abs.
My advocacy work, activism, and lecture work has been my best therapy.
Yeah.
Uh, I've done it because I will tell people often when I'm speaking that had I not come from the background and atmosphere growing up like I did in the tragedy and how we got over it
Yeah.
and how we all get over those, and I did, I probably wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing now.
Exactly. And to go back to this, I don't want to be a hater. I'm not saying that if you have
Sure.
abs and you're 22, you're discounted. Absolutely not. There's just so many of those voices, and those are the ones who get the oil. They're the squeaky wheels in that sense. But the ones that are older aren't really admired, and those are the ones that we should be paying attention to. Not just the shiny abs. We should.
I had a conversation with two guys that I'm friends with that have a podcast on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally they'll, you know, show a little skin or do something. And I've had this conversation. Sex sells, the
It
great
does.
dance sells, and we're all into that. And or a lot of people are into that. But when you come with substance or the older community, people are like, and that's been an awful thing that we've done through the ages where, it's very youth oriented.
It's youth oriented, and
Maybe,
after you turn 40, it's at the
yeah,
decay of the gay is what it's called.
the magazines. I see that, the
Yeah.
few that are out now, or even a promo. I was just looking at a local bar here promoting for St. Patty's Day, and it's all these beautiful men and, 30s somethings, 20, 30 something. Where is the older generation that you're celebrating as well? We
Yep.
can forget them. And a lot of them are having a rough time.
Yeah. The partners may have died, or they have issues getting back on that horse dating because it's so age biased.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's just the younger to the older. It's like the older also. Some older guys want to date younger. So it's hard to date your age when people your age want younger too. So you
And
know,
then you get the ones that are, some of them that are bitter against the
yes,
gay community because of how they've been treated.
right,
And,
and
you know,
that's not a way to go.
then I'm using the air quotes that people get. I don't want to turn into the bitter old queen.
Right.
And I see my brother's gay, and I,
Hmm.
I feel that that has been something that he may have dealt with a little bit. But again, he's chased the way younger men in the past. But I
Right.
think, some of those younger relationships that the older have gone after is maybe, yeah, they're attractive, but you're trying to recapture something maybe you didn't have, or
Exactly.
a lot
Or
of us
relive something.
didn't date when we were younger. Went out with, a couple girls. That's not what I wanted,
Right.
but that's the way things went.
Yeah, and life isn't perfect, and you just have to. I feel the word respect for yourself, is adequate. Respect for the I don't know, the community, and it's not just but really it's about respecting yourself. But I don't think that dating younger or dating older is a bad thing. I just think that when you judge someone because of their age, and you discard them as anything that's useful, that's when it gets negative, you know.
Right. We have love, we have beauty and love in our own eyes, and
Worthy, yeah.
however it will be. I have the people I just told you that have the YouTube channel. They're in an age gap relationship, 30 years
Right.
between them,
Yeah.
and I see them together. They're happy. They just
Yeah.
got engaged, and celebrate that. We come from a world where everything is picked apart and dissected. You see that with posts. It's just people are out there to find fault with things, and
We need to have empathy and connect and create more of a sense of community. That's
right,
what I'm thinking. You know,
right,
it's exactly that. It's we're just we're not respecting others and respecting ourselves, and we really need to go in, and instead of showing, you know, when you go online and saying, hey, what are you looking for, and sending dirty pics right away, it's like really getting to know people now, you know.
yeah.
We're
We need to be better humans.
we need to be better humans. So on that note, Greg, where can we find you? Where can we get to know more about you, and where you know, what are your handles?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, well, of course, I'm all over the internet. So here you go. My website is gregorbaird.com. I
Mm-hmm.
also have a small food seasoning business on the side that I do just because I like to cook, and that's Gregor
Nice.
Seasoning, gregorseasoning.com. It's a fun little thing that I do. It's no chemicals or anything I use with what I use, but you can check it out. I'm also on Facebook, Gregor Baird. I'm on Blue Sky at Gregor Speaks, Instagram at the same handle, Gregor Speaks. I post my vlogs Monday, Wednesday, Friday on TikTok and also YouTube. And I think I covered everything. But yeah, and if you go to my any of those channels, you'll see the link tree on those. Oh, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. So
That's
it's
great.
and I tell you that's a whole other job.
Yeah,
Posting
no,
all that stuff.
absolutely.
And I used to do a different video for. I did one for TikTok this morning, but I just started blending those over to YouTube. It's too much to keep doing two separate things and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. But I enjoy it. I used to film with an actual video camera and edit and music and segue.
Hmm.
That was a 3 hour process. So now everything's done on my phone with the ring lights and other things like that. And maybe one day
Yeah.
I'll get back to using a camera. But yeah, I love it. I love the connection, and I put a lot of positivity out in the world and what I'm doing. But would love to have any new followers and subscribers would be brilliant.
Well, I'm glad we connected, and I'm sure you'll be back on the show soon enough, so we can continue having these wonderful conversations.
Thank you. I enjoyed the conversation with you today, and I appreciate your listeners listening and all the effort you made to have your podcast today.
If you or someone you know are in crisis and need help, please reach out to a caring professional at SAMHSA's National Helpline by calling 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. Or you can simply text 988 on your phone. More information can be found by going to findtreatment.gov. That's findtreatment.gov.